Welcome to Sidelines, with the program where we talk about important events with interesting guests. So today my guest is Максим Михалев, who is Orientalist, anthropologist and traveler. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you very much for accepting our request.
Thank you for the invitation.
Sure. Could you please tell us about your aim, your being in Mongolia?
My aim is actually, I'm on a bicycle trip from Moscow to Beijing, which is 8,000 kilometers across 4 countries of Eurasia. But I need to tell first that I'm not a cyclist, I'm not a professional sportsman, and my aim is not to get from point A to point B. It's not to cover a distance or to reach a destination. Because I'm a scientist, I work in Russian Academy of Sciences in the Institute of Ethnology and Anthropology. And bicycle for me is a way of field research, which is quite rare, but I discovered that it's a really good tool to make a research. So I started in Moscow and ride my bicycle all the way to Beijing to see, to feel, to experience and to understand the processes of Eurasian integration from the point of view of a common traveler, of common people, of people who live in Eurasia and who experience the integration processes that are undergoing now.
And could you please tell us about the expedition itself?
Yeah, it's called the Belts and Roads of Eurasia, and this is very important to emphasize the plural. It's not the Belt and Road, which is a Chinese integration initiative, it's Belts and Roads. Because it means that there should be different belts and different roads, and only in this situation the integration will take place. And last year I published a book together with a former head of Russian Railways, Mr. Yakunin, and it is dedicated to different integration projects in Eurasia of different governments, including One Belt, One Road from China, or Stepway from Mongolia, or Great Eurasia of Russian government. And it's a geopolitical book. It's from the point of view of a cabinet scientist who is sitting in an office in Moscow and analyze
just from this
from a point of view of a scientist in the capital.
Theory,
and the idea was to get to the field, go back to basics, and to see how it influences the real people.
By yourself.
And to see it by myself. And it proved, because now it's not finished yet. I'm still in Ulaanbaatar, so it means it's still 1,300 kilometers to Beijing. But after 6,700 kilometers, I can tell that it proved to be a really effective way of seeing the difference between purely theoretical understanding of integration processes and between the real processes that is that is underway now. So this is not a bike trip, this is scientific expedition, and the aim of this expedition is to gather the data for writing the second volume with the same name as the first one, the Belts and Roads of Eurasia, but the name would be also View from the Down, because it was view from the up. And now it's view from the down, and then I can compare how it looks like from a capital and how it looks like from the road.
Okay. How long it takes?
It depends, but I hope it will take no more than 100 days. Today is the 86th day, so it took me 85 days to get to Ulaanbaatar. And I hope it will take no more than 2 weeks to get to Beijing. So it's all in all, it's 100.
And do you travel alone now?
Yeah, I travel alone, and this really is the most convenient way to travel alone. If you travel with somebody, you want to wake up earlier, he wants to wake up later, you ride faster, he rides slower, or whatever. You want to stay here, he wants to stay there, and it's especially on an expedition, because you discover that this is something you need to take special attention to, and you don't need to go further. But your partner wants to go further, and he has different understanding, so it's really difficult to adjust. And being alone, it's a little bit more convenient. And the second, if you are alone, you have to speak with people.
Sure.
And if you speak with people, you understand the country. If you don't speak with people, if you speak with your partner, you understand your partner.
Sure.
You understand the sightseeing, the beautiful nature,
You're
but
not fully in.
Yeah, you're not fully integrate yourself into the environment. But when you are alone, oh, no way. 86 days you have to speak. Otherwise, it would be too boring. So you have to speak. And because you speak, you understand the people. And because you understand the people, you understand the integration processes, you understand the situation, and fulfill your aim. So.
And what complications do you face while you're your trip?
The biggest, it's like normal difficult for any cyclist. Any cyclist will tell that it's a wind and rain. So
it's climate.
Yeah, it's nature.
Nothing else.
So yeah, honestly, nothing else. So the people are friendly. People used to scare you. So when you are in Russia, people will tell you, in Russia is okay, but as soon as you get to Mongolia, it would be a problem. When you are in Mongolia, people say, in Mongolia it's okay. As soon as you get to China, it would be a problem. But honestly speaking, 95% of people are good ones. And luckily, I haven't met any bad people. And I remember a shaman in Tuva, before I crossed the border to Mongolia, told me, say, fear no people, fear only wolves.
Oh.
And I think this makes sense. We shall not fear people. We shall fear wolves. Yeah. But luckily I haven't met any wolf.
Yes. Okay. Now let's go back to your books. So as I understood, your first book is consists of theory, and it's written from up.
Yeah.
And your second book that you're now writing, it's gonna be from the down, like from the practical side. And could you please tell us about the influence of your second book to maybe, in general, maybe to the world, or how do you see in which aspect it can really influence?
I hope that it can influence the world, as you mentioned, but it's probably the influence would be not that big.
But still.
But anyway, yeah, it would be quite different from the most of the book dedicated to integration, honestly, and it will be controversial. It will be very different from the first volume, because it will more concentrate on the negative sides of integration. Because when we see it from the up, it's always good. Okay, we build the roads, we build the factories. The economic growth brings salaries to people. But when you come to the field, you see that most of the people don't want this. This is interesting.
It doesn't work here.
Yeah, they don't want it. It's always imposed on people. The integration is always imposed on people, and they are not always a beneficiary of the integration. This is one of the things that any planners of the big political efforts should take into consideration. Because when the road is built, it should be guaranteed that people along the road are not just a decoration on the road. And the road is not just from point A to point B, and it makes travel faster and easier, like from Ulaanbaatar to Beijing. If it's really fast, what I discovered, if the road is really good, if the road is really fast, everything in between disappears. Because people from Ulaanbaatar can travel really fast to Beijing, and people in between, they don't need to live here. They all move to Ulaanbaatar because it's a convenient road, or to Beijing. And the people who travel from point A to point B don't need to stop on the way. So there are no hotels and no infrastructure along the good roads. When the road is bad, it's good for local people.
And let us talk about the Silkway project. As I read from your CV and so on, and there were written a lot about this Silkway project, and many years people talk about also the new Silkway. And how do you find Mongolia's participation in this project? Like in the new Silkway, I'm sorry.
I really appreciate the efforts of Mongolian government and the way it deals with the new Silk Way. So it allows something to be built in Mongolia, but it doesn't allow this construction to influence Mongolian inner situation so far, which is really good. So you welcome the investors, you let them improve the situation, but you don't let them to rule the situation. And this is the most important. And it's interesting, maybe I'm wrong, but what I discovered in Mongolian roads, a special peculiarity of Mongolian roads, it's asphalted all the way, but for the, how it's called, Dava. It's a mountain path. It's almost never asphalted. So the people come to Dava and then they go slower. And then, I don't know why, maybe it's something with the techniques or whatever, but the idea is when there is a smooth way, but there is a problem point in between, this problem point can benefit from the development. If the way is smooth all the way, nobody will stop here, nobody will buy anything here. But if there is a small portion of road that it's not asphalted yet, cars will stop here and people will have lunch or maybe have rest or whatever. So the people who live here, they develop themselves. And what is can be done in Mongolia, so the Mongolia, if Mongolia becomes really like a smooth way from China to Europe, like it's planned, then it would be no benefit from Mongolia. Because all the goods, commodities and everything else will just pass Mongolia. And Mongolian people will never see it, they will be just living beside the road. But if there will be some obstacles, little obstacles in between, then the people who live next to the obstacles can benefit from a new Silk Way. And what I have seen in Mongolia, it's still not smooth. And because it's not smooth yet, so Mongolia can benefit from a new Silk Way. As soon as it becomes really smooth, Mongolia will be just a transit space.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is like, I call it Dava model. And this would be a part of the new book. It's called Dava model. That you need to make some obstacles, some small obstacles on the way, and then people living in between two big destinations, they can also benefit from the development. If it's smooth all the way, they will just live beside the road, and they will have a noise, but no big benefits. And this is what I really get from the road, because you can never see it from a cabinet, reading the books. But when you are cycling, you see, oh, this is, it's just 5 kilometers without asphalt road. But because it's 5 kilometers without road, the people can benefit. It's not that good for you, but for them it's good.
You said that investors are not controlled enough in Mongolia. What should Mongolia or Mongolian government should do to control the situation? How do you think, how do you see the solution in our circumstances as a scientist?
Exercise some control on investors. It's quite good, and they're still not slaves to investors. But the biggest, I think, it's an attitude. And if you see the investors as a messiah and say, oh, they come to save us, then the investors become really arrogant. They become really proud, and they can insist on everything. But if you understand that investors need this integration, it's not you who needs, it's them need. They need to build the roads. They build it for themselves. And because they build the roads, they have benefits. As soon as you understand that you are giving them privilege to build the road here, then the attitude changes. So your position becomes different. So you say, I allow you to build the road here. It's not that I welcome you to build the road. I allow you to build the road. And then the investors will come and ask you. And it's not that you will be begging for investors. And this is not only for Mongolian government. It's for Russian government or Kazakhstan government, elsewhere. The investors, the governments shall understand that they give benefits to investors by inviting them. And it's not vice versa.
Like, how many days are you in Mongolia?
It's been already 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and it's 1 more week. So I have 30 days visa-free in Mongolia, so I have to squeeze my itinerary into 30 days anyway.
Where have you been, or in what cities, in what provinces?
I entered Mongolia from Tuva, from Republic of Tuva in Russia, so it was in Zavkhan, Aymak, and then in Tsetserlek and Kharkharin, and then all the way to Ulaanbaatar, and now head for Gobi. So it's more or less central Mongolia, and no big cities yet, so, but for Tsetserlek, and Ulaanbaatar, of course.
Okay, and do you plan, after you're coming back to Moscow, maybe again go to China or somewhere else to do more expeditions?
That's a good question. It's a good question, and I like it. I like it because I often think, okay, 100 days, and then I come back to the office life. Oh, I feel it's so boring. Then I need to think it over for a new expedition. This expedition was supported by Assembly of Peoples of Eurasia in Russia, and if it's successful, maybe they will support one more expedition. It would be great. And I like your point. It should be more deeper kind of experience, because there's a problem with bicycle, of course, because first of all you need to take care where you sleep, where you stay, or whatever, and sometimes you want to stay in this place and you want to speak more with people, but then you know that 2 days later it will be raining, so you cannot stay today because you need to go. You need to go tomorrow, otherwise you will be stuck because of rain. So you still depend on the weather too much. But there are some places and some topics and some aspects that should be researched a little bit more. And especially, for example, in Mongolia, for me it's interesting.
Did your previous expeditions also were supported by Assembly of Peoples?
Oh no, it's the first time. It's the first time. And they supported from organizational point of view, of context point of view. From financial point of view, it's my own project. So.
Really?
Yeah, yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
But it's good. I mean, seriously, when you finance yourself, you can write whatever you see. You can be honest. If there is some company who supports you, you have to write that because of this company, the Belt and Road is.
So you have to give credit for something, for some companies.
When you finance yourself, you are really free to write what you really feel and what you really experience. And so I'm really enjoying this kind of cooperation between myself and Assembly of Peoples of Eurasia.
So you're going by bike, right? And how do you fix what you see, what you read, what you face? How do you fix it? Like you write it, you just remember it?
Yeah, I'm quite an old school researcher, so I like the notebooks like you.
Okay.
And I like to write with a pen. So every evening I think back all the impressions and write them. It's a personal impression, and then for the book, and then for the future. And then every evening I write it, and it's already quite thick. It's half of the book already. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And of course I make some pictures, but it's not that really important. I don't like making selfies of myself all the way from Moscow to Beijing, but I like to see the people and to show the people on the way. So, but they want to have a picture with me, so I had lots of pictures made by these local people. But the most important is notes. I'm still a scientist and not a video blogger.
Sure. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And we wish you good luck for your next expeditions and trips. We will definitely wait for your new book. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dear viewers, today we had a talk with the Orientalist, anthropologist and traveler, Mr. Maxim Mihalev. If you have something to add or update, please contact us. You now see our contacts in the bottom of your screen. And we'll see you next week. See you. Bye.